The translation device had one job. Just one simple job. And in exactly 3 seconds, it was going to turn Commander Jake Morrison into either a dead man or a legend. But he didn't know that yet. Jake stood on the crystal landing platform of the Zorvathian capital world, his heart hammering so hard he thought the aliens might actually hear it. Through his earpiece, the Harmony 9000 AI translator hummed softly, ready to convert his carefully rehearsed greeting into the alien language. Everything depended on this moment. Humanity's entire future among the stars hung on the next words that would come out of his mouth. Across from him, elevated on a glowing platform, stood Queen Lysara of the Zorvathian Empire. She was young, powerful, and commanded 17 star systems with absolute authority. Her skin shimmered in shades of deep purple and violet, and her eyes shifted colors like oil on water. The crown on her head seemed to be made of actual solidified light, pulsing with each breath she took. She was beautiful. She was terrifying. And in about 2 seconds, she was going to hear something that no human had intended to say. Jake opened his mouth to deliver humanity's first official greeting to an alien civilization. He had no idea that his translator had already malfunctioned. The year was 2347, and humanity had finally done it. After decades of sending signals into the void, someone had answered back. The Zorvathian Empire, a civilization that controlled 17 star systems, had invited Earth to send a diplomatic envoy to their capital world. It was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. Commander Jake Morrison had been chosen for this mission because of his perfect record, his calm under pressure, and his ability to follow protocol exactly. He was not a risk-taker. He was not a comedian. He was the safest choice Earth could make, which made what was about to happen even more impossible to believe. 24 hours earlier, Jake had stood in the briefing room of the Earth Diplomatic Corps' headquarters, staring at holographic images of the alien world he would soon visit. His hands had been sweaty even then. "Morrison, you ready for this?" Director Chun had asked. She was a stern woman with silver hair who had spent her entire career preparing for this exact moment. "As ready as I'll ever be, ma'am," Jake had replied, straightening his new diplomatic uniform. Director Chun had handed him a small device that looked like a silver earpiece. "This is the Harmony 9000, our most advanced AI translator. It has been programmed with every language pattern we've detected from Zorvathian broadcasts. You wear this, and it will translate everything you say into perfect Zorvathian." Jake had taken the device carefully. "And this has been tested?" "Extensively," Chun had assured him. "Our linguists are confident. Just speak normally, and the AI handles the rest." That confidence now seemed very far away. As Jake's shuttle, the olive branch, had descended through the purple atmosphere of the Zorvathian home world, he had reviewed his greeting one final time. Simple, respectful, professional. Nothing could go wrong if he just followed the script. The landing platform was massive, carved from crystalline material that pulsed with inner light. When the shuttle doors opened, Jake had stepped out into air that smelled like electricity and flowers mixed together. It was alien but not unpleasant. The Zorvathians waiting for him were magnificent. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with elegant features and robes that seemed to be woven from light itself. Their movements were graceful, almost liquid, and they watched the humans with obvious curiosity. But all of that faded when Jake saw Queen Lysara. She stood at the center of the welcoming party, elevated above everyone else. Despite being young, perhaps the equivalent of a human in her mid-20s, she carried herself with absolute authority. Her robes were the most elaborate, woven with threads that actually glowed and shifted colors. Every eye, human and Zorvathian alike, was drawn to her. "That's Queen Lysara," whispered Dr. Sarah Park, the xenobiologist who had accompanied Jake. "Youngest queen in their recorded history. Be very, very careful." Jake activated his Harmony 9000 translator. It beeped softly in his ear, confirming it was online and ready. His throat felt dry, but he stepped forward anyway. This was his moment. Humanity's moment. He stopped at the appropriate distance, as their research had indicated was respectful in Zorvathian culture. Queen Lysara regarded him with those shifting, colorful eyes. Up close, she was even more striking. Her features were alien but somehow elegant in a way that transcended species. Intelligence and power radiated from her like heat from a star. Jake took a deep breath and spoke the words he had memorized perfectly. "Your Majesty, on behalf of the people of Earth, I greet you with respect and hope for friendship between our worlds. We are honored by your invitation and grateful for this historic meeting." Simple, professional, respectful, exactly as rehearsed. The translator hummed, processing his words. Jake waited, watching the Queen's face for her reaction. What he didn't know was that somewhere in the translator's circuits, a cosmic ray had struck at exactly the wrong microsecond during their descent through the atmosphere. A single bit had flipped. One tiny piece of code had changed. The IS language processing matrix had shifted in a way that was so subtle, so specific, that no diagnostic would have caught it. The device had turned his respectful greeting into something very, very different. Queen Lysara's eyes widened suddenly. Her mouth opened in shock. Around her, the royal guards tensed immediately, their hands flying toward weapons that Jake hadn't even noticed they were carrying. The entire welcoming party seemed to gasp at once, a sound that echoed across the crystal platform. Jake's blood turned to ice. Something had gone terribly wrong. The Queen stared at him with an expression he couldn't read. Was it anger? Shock? Horror? His translator beeped, and he heard her response in English. "What did you just say to me?" Her voice was sharp, dangerous. The guards now had their weapons halfway drawn, glowing energy weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Jake could see his entire diplomatic career, and possibly his life, evaporating before his eyes. I greeted you with respect, Your Majesty," Jake stammered, his mind racing through everything he had said, trying to figure out what could have possibly gone wrong. Behind him, Dr. Park made a small distressed sound. The other human diplomats looked ready to run back to the shuttle. Queen Lysara continued to stare at him. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Jake could feel sweat running down his back. This was it. Humanity's first contact was turning into a disaster, and he had no idea why. The guards took a step forward. And then, something impossible happened. Queen Lysara's stern expression began to crack. Her lips twitched at the corners. Her shoulders started to shake. Her eyes, which had been wide with shock, suddenly sparkled with something that looked almost like amusement. And then the Queen of the Zorvathian Empire, ruler of 17 star systems, the most powerful being in this entire sector of space, began to laugh. Not a polite diplomatic chuckle. Not a restrained royal giggle. Real, genuine, uncontrollable laughter. She actually had to reach out and steady herself on her throne, her whole body shaking with mirth. Tears formed in her colorful eyes. She tried to speak but couldn't get words out between the laughs. The guards froze, looking at each other in complete confusion. They slowly lowered their weapons, unsure whether they should be concerned or relieved. The other Zorvathian officials exchanged bewildered glances. Jake stood completely frozen, his mind unable to process what was happening. He had somehow made the most powerful alien in known space laugh hysterically, and he still had absolutely no idea what he had actually said to her. Queen Lysara finally managed to catch her breath, wiping tears from her eyes. She looked at Jake with an expression that was now filled with genuine amusement and something that might have been respect. She spoke again, and the translator converted her words. "In all my years as queen, no one has ever greeted me quite like that, human. Tell me, was that intentional, or do all humans have such unique diplomatic approaches?" Jake's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Your Majesty, I'm not sure what I said. I meant no disrespect. This seemed to make her laugh even harder. Queen Lysara finally composed herself, though her eyes still sparkled with amusement. She waved her hand, and the guards reluctantly stepped back, though they kept watching Jake with suspicious curiosity. The tension on the platform had shifted from deadly to simply bizarre. Come closer, human, the Queen said, her voice still carrying hints of laughter. I want to understand this better. Jake's legs felt like rubber as he stepped forward. Dr. Park grabbed his arm urgently and whispered, Jake, something is wrong with the translator. We need to shut it down and figure out what happened. But before Jake could respond, Queen Lysara spoke again. You brought others with you. Good. I want witnesses to this historic moment when humanity introduced themselves by complimenting my posterior. The translation hit Jake's ears like a physical blow. His face went completely white, then bright red. Behind him, Dr. Park made a choking sound. The other human diplomats gasped in horror. I did what? Jake's voice came out as a squeak. Queen Lysara smiled, a genuine warm smile that somehow made her even more beautiful and more terrifying at the same time. Your translation device, which I assume is that thing in your ear, converted your greeting into something quite different. You essentially told me that I have an admirable backside, and that humanity would be honored to observe it more closely. Jake wanted the crystal platform to open up and swallow him whole. His career was over. Humanity's chances at galactic diplomacy were destroyed. Earth would probably be wiped out as punishment for his incredible insult. He could already imagine the history books. Humanity's first contact, complete disaster due to but compliment. Your Majesty, I am so incredibly sorry, Jake began, his words tumbling out in a panic. This is a complete malfunction. I would never, ever intentionally say something so disrespectful. Please, on behalf of all humanity, I apologize. We meant no offense. This is a technological failure, not a diplomatic insult. Queen Lysara held up her hand, stopping his rambling apology. Human, what is your name? Commander Jake Morrison, Your Majesty. Commander Morrison, she said slowly, as if testing how the human name felt in her mouth. Do you know why I am laughing instead of having you executed? Jake shook his head, not trusting his voice anymore. The Queen stood from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. Her guards tensed but didn't move to stop her. She approached until she was standing directly in front of Jake, her superior height making him feel even smaller. Because in 17 star systems, across hundreds of worlds and billions of subjects, everyone is terrified of me, she said quietly, though her voice carried across the silent platform. They speak to me with perfect protocol, perfect respect, perfect fear. They weigh every word, afraid that one mistake will anger me. Do you know how exhausting that becomes? Jake blinked, not sure where this was going. Queen Lysara's expression softened. And then you arrive. The first human I have ever met. The representative of an entire species making their debut on the galactic stage. And your malfunctioning technology turns your carefully prepared greeting into the most absurd, inappropriate, ridiculous compliment I have heard in my entire reign. She smiled again. It was refreshing. Refreshing? Jake repeated weakly. Refreshing, she confirmed. Though I suspect not intentional, which somehow makes it even better. Tell me, Commander Morrison, does your species have a sense of humor? We do, Your Majesty, Jake said carefully, his brain still trying to catch up with the fact that he apparently wasn't going to be executed. Good, Queen Lysara said. Then perhaps we can be friends after all. Though I suggest you fix that translator before it causes a genuine diplomatic incident. Dr. Park rushed forward, fumbling with a diagnostic device. Your Majesty, if I may, I would like to examine what went wrong. This is extremely concerning from a technical standpoint. Queen Lysara nodded graciously. Of course. In fact, I insist. My own technical advisors will assist you. I am very curious how such a specific malfunction occurred. As Dr. Park began working on the translator with the help of several Zorvathian technicians who appeared seemingly from nowhere, Queen Lysara turned back to Jake. While they work, Commander Morrison, walk with me. I want to know more about humanity. And this time, perhaps speak without the translator. I have been studying your language in preparation for this meeting. My pronunciation may be imperfect, but I will understand you. Jake fell into step beside the Queen as she began walking across the crystal platform toward an enormous structure that looked like a palace grown from purple glass. Her guards followed at a respectful distance. Your Majesty speaks English? Jake asked, surprised. I speak 17 languages from 17 different worlds. Queen Lysara replied in slightly accented, but perfectly understandable English. When one rules an empire, one must communicate. Your language is actually quite beautiful, though very strange in structure. They entered the palace, and Jake's breath caught. The interior was like nothing he had ever seen. Walls seemed to shift and flow, made of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing what appeared to be star maps and data streams. The floor beneath their feet was transparent in places, revealing depths that seemed to go down forever. Commander Morrison, Queen Lysara said as they walked, I want to be honest with you. Your translator malfunction may have been embarrassing, but it was also fortunate. How so, Your Majesty? She paused at a large window that looked out over her capital city. Buildings stretched to the horizon, elegant spires of crystal and light, interconnected by bridges that seemed to float in the air. Ships moved between them, leaving trails of colored light. There are factions in my empire who did not want me to invite humanity to join the galactic community, she said quietly. They believe your species is too primitive, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They wanted me to observe you for another century before making contact. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. And what do you believe, Your Majesty? Queen Lysara turned to face him, her shifting eyes serious now. I believe that any species capable of reaching beyond their own world deserves a chance. But I also needed to see for myself. I needed to understand what humans are really like, not just what your broadcasts and signals told us. And my translator accident helped you understand that? Jake asked, confused. It showed me that humans can be embarrassed, can panic, can apologize sincerely when they believe they have made a mistake, the Queen said. It showed me vulnerability and honesty. Those are traits I value far more than perfect protocol. Before Jake could respond, Dr. Park came rushing into the room, her face pale. Commander Morrison, Your Majesty, I have analyzed the translator malfunction. What did you find? Queen Lysara asked. Dr. Park looked between them nervously. The malfunction was caused by radiation damage during our atmospheric entry. A cosmic ray hit the processing unit at exactly the wrong moment and corrupted the language matrix. The odds of this happening are approximately 1 in several billion. So it was purely accidental? The Queen asked. Completely accidental, Your Majesty, Dr. Park confirmed. Though what concerns me more is what the translator actually said. It didn't just make a random error. The corruption caused it to access informal, colloquial Zorvathian language patterns that we didn't even know existed in our database. Commander Morrison's greeting was translated using slang that apparently hasn't been commonly spoken in the Zorvathian language for over 300 years. Queen Lysara's eyes widened slightly. Ancient casual dialect? That is unexpected. Dr. Park nodded. According to the Zorvathian technicians who helped me analyze this, the phrasing Commander Morrison accidentally used is something that would have been said between close friends or family members in old Zorvathian culture. It was inappropriate for formal settings, but it carried connotations of warmth and familiarity. So I didn't just compliment your... Jake couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence. But I did it using language that made it sound friendly rather than creepy. Essentially, yes, Dr. Park said, though still wildly inappropriate for a first meeting with royalty. Queen Lysara laughed again, though more softly this time. So the human's broken machine made him speak to me like an old friend making a joke. No wonder it was so startling and so amusing at the same time. She looked at Jake with an expression he couldn't quite read. Commander Morrison, I have made my decision. I will recommend to the Galactic Council that humanity be welcomed as junior members of the interstellar community. Your species has proven to be genuine, humble, and capable of laughing at themselves. These are rare qualities in the galaxy. Jake felt relief wash over him like a wave. Thank you, Your Majesty. You have no idea how much this means to us. However, the Queen continued, and Jake's relief evaporated instantly. There is a condition. Anything, Your Majesty. Queen Lysara smiled. And there was something mischievous in that smile that made Jake nervous. You, Commander Morrison, will remain here as Earth's first permanent ambassador to the Zorvathian Empire. I want the human who accidentally complimented my posterior to be the face of humanity in my court. Jake's mouth fell open. Behind him, Dr. Park made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Your Majesty, I'm honored, but You are exactly qualified, Queen Lysara interrupted. You are honest, genuine, and apparently incapable of hiding your true feelings, even when your technology betrays you. Those are the qualities I need in an ambassador. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. Besides, Commander Morrison, I think you and your broken translator might make palace life much more interesting. As Jake tried to process the fact that his career wasn't over, but was instead taking the strangest turn imaginable, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the palace. The alarms were deafening, a pulsing sound that seemed to vibrate through the crystal walls themselves. Red holographic displays materialized in the air, showing symbols that Jake couldn't read, but understood meant danger. Queen Lysara's expression transformed instantly from amused to deadly serious. She spoke rapidly in Zorvathian to her guards, who immediately surrounded both her and the human delegation. Within seconds, more guards poured into the room, all carrying those glowing energy weapons. Your Majesty, what's happening? Jake asked, his heart racing again for entirely different reasons than before. The Queen's eyes were fixed on one of the holographic displays, reading information that scrolled past faster than Jake could follow. Her jaw tightened. It seems the factions I mentioned earlier have decided to make their objections to humanity known in a more direct way. Dr. Park grabbed Jake's arm. Are we under attack? Not you, Queen Lysara said, still reading the displays. Me. There is a fleet approaching from the outer system. 3 battle cruisers belonging to High Admiral Kethrak. He is one of my military commanders who strongly opposed my decision to contact Earth. One of the Zorvathian advisors rushed forward, speaking urgently in their language. Queen Lysara listened, her expression growing darker. When the advisor finished, she turned back to Jake. The situation is worse than I thought. High Admiral Kethrak has declared that I am unfit to rule because I have allowed primitive aliens to insult the crown without consequence. He is claiming that your translator malfunction was actually an intentional test of my authority, and that my laughter instead of punishment proves I am too weak to lead the Empire. That's insane, Jake said. It was clearly an accident. Truth does not matter to those seeking power, Queen Lysara replied bitterly. Kethrak has been waiting for any excuse to challenge me. Your arrival simply gave him the opportunity he needed. She paused, studying Jake's face carefully. He's demanding that I execute you immediately to restore honor to the crown, or he will remove me from the throne by force. The room fell silent except for the continuing alarms. Jake felt the weight of every eye on him. He had gone from nearly causing a diplomatic disaster to actually triggering a civil war, all within the span of a few hours. "Your Majesty," Jake said slowly, "if my death would prevent a war and keep you on the throne, then I volunteer. Earth cannot be responsible for destabilizing your empire." Queen Lysara stared at him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. It was not a warm smile this time. It was the smile of a predator who had just decided to stop playing with her food. "Commander Morrison, that is a very noble offer. But I have a better idea." She turned to her guards and began issuing orders in rapid Zorvathian. They looked shocked at first, then began nodding with what looked like fierce approval. "What are you planning, Your Majesty?" Dr. Park asked nervously. "I am going to teach High Admiral Kethrak a lesson about underestimating both his queen and humanity," Lysara said. She looked at Jake. "Commander Morrison, how would you like to help me end a rebellion before it begins?" "I'm not sure what I could possibly do," Jake admitted. "You can do exactly what you have been doing since you arrived," the Queen said. "Be yourself. Be honest. Be the human who made me laugh." She gestured to the holographic displays. "Kethrak is broadcasting his challenge across all communication channels. He wants this to be public, to embarrass me in front of the entire empire. So I am going to respond publicly." Within minutes, Jake found himself standing beside Queen Lysara in what appeared to be a broadcast chamber. Cameras, or whatever the Zorvathian equivalent was, floated in the air around them. The Queen had changed into formal battle regalia, armor that gleamed like dark metal but moved like cloth. She looked every bit the warrior queen that her reputation claimed. "We are broadcasting to every world in the Empire," she explained to Jake. "Billions will be watching. High Admiral Kethrak believes he can shame me by describing your translator accident and my response to it. Instead, I am going to tell the truth on my own terms." The broadcast began. Queen Lysara spoke in Zorvathian, her voice carrying absolute authority. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the power in them. She gestured to him occasionally, and he tried to stand straight and look as dignified as possible. After several minutes, Queen Lysara switched to English, speaking directly to Jake but clearly for the benefit of the cameras. "Commander Morrison, High Admiral Kethrak claims that your greeting to me was an intentional insult to test my strength. Tell everyone watching, in your own words, what actually happened." Jake took a deep breath. He thought about trying to use diplomatic language, carefully chosen words that would make everything sound better. Then he remembered what the Queen had said about valuing honesty. "The truth is," Jake began, speaking in English while Zorvathian subtitles appeared on the holographic displays, "I was terrified. Meeting Queen Lysara was the most important moment of my life and my entire species' history. I practiced my greeting 1,000 times. I checked every system twice. And despite all that preparation, my translator broke and made me say something completely inappropriate." He could see his own image on the displays now, his face honest and open. "When I realized what happened, I thought I was going to die. I thought I had destroyed humanity's chances at joining the galaxy. But Queen Lysara didn't execute me." She laughed. "Not because she is weak, but because she understood that mistakes happen, that technology fails, that accidents don't define intentions." Jake looked directly at the cameras. "High Admiral Kethrak says the Queen is weak for showing me mercy. But from where I stand, it takes much more strength to choose understanding over violence, humor over anger, wisdom over pride. Any leader can kill someone who offends them. Only a truly powerful leader can recognize an honest mistake and turn a potential disaster into the beginning of friendship." He turned to Queen Lysara. "Your Majesty, I am grateful for your mercy, but I am even more grateful for your judgment. You saw past the broken words to the genuine intention behind them. That is not weakness. That is wisdom that your empire should treasure." Queen Lysara nodded, then turned back to the cameras and spoke in Zorvathian again. Her tone had changed now, becoming harder, colder. Jake didn't need translation to understand that she was issuing a challenge to Kethrak. The broadcast ended. Queen Lysara turned to Jake with satisfaction in her eyes. "Well spoken, Commander. Now we wait to see if Kethrak has the courage to follow through with his threats, now that the entire Empire knows the real story." They didn't have to wait long. Within the hour, new messages began flooding in. The holographic displays showed responses from across the Empire. Jake couldn't read most of them, but Dr. Park, working with one of the Zorvathian translators, provided updates. "Commander, you're trending across 17 star systems," Dr. Park said with amazement. The phrase "honest mistake" has become a rally cry. Civilians are broadcasting their own stories of technological failures and accidents. There are even memes comparing Kethrak to a. I'm not sure of the exact translation, but it's definitely not flattering. One of Queen Lysara's advisors approached and spoke urgently. The Queen listened, then actually smiled. Kethrak's fleet has stopped advancing. He is receiving messages from his own crews, questioning whether they want to rebel over a translator accident. Some of his officers are threatening to mutiny if he continues. Another advisor rushed in with more news. Queen Lysara's smile grew wider. Even better. The Galactic Council has issued a formal statement supporting my handling of the situation. They are citing it as an example of mature leadership and cultural sensitivity. 3 other empires have sent congratulations on my restraint. Jake felt dizzy. "So the rebellion is over?" "Not quite," Queen Lysara said. "But it is collapsing. Kethrak has 2 choices now: retreat and accept humiliation, or attack and be remembered as the admiral who started a civil war over a broken translator." As if on cue, another message came through. The Queen read it and laughed, that same genuine laugh from when Jake had first met her. "Kethrak has issued an apology. He claims he was misinformed about the situation and acted hastily. His fleet is withdrawing." The throne room erupted in cheers from the Zorvathian guards and advisors. Dr. Park hugged Jake so hard he thought his ribs might crack. Other human diplomats were celebrating, though they still looked shell-shocked by everything that had happened. Queen Lysara approached Jake, her expression now warm again. "Commander Morrison, in less than 1 day, you have accidentally insulted me, made me laugh, nearly started a war, and then helped me end a rebellion using nothing but honesty. I believe this is what humans call an eventful first